Hello and welcome to the Make Creative Podcast, your monthly podcast of creativeness. My name is Sam and with me today is Connor.
How you doing, guys?
And Pastor Wayne.
Hey, how you going, guys? Hi, Sam.
Hey, how you going?
Yeah, good.
Oh,
hey, Connor.
that's
Yeah,
good.
how you doing?
All right.
Oh, it's all very lovely, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's fantastic.
I'm feeling the love. Also behind the camera is Joel.
Hello.
That's the last you're going to hear of Joel for the podcast, so enjoy what you heard.
I'm leaving.
Yeah, I love his voice, but, you know, we're more important.
Yeah. Look, we can't be too mean to Joel because he's much better than our last sound guy.
That's true.
Oh, who was that?
Kelvin. Yeah.
Oh, Kelvin.
Yeah, Kelvin was our last sound guy.
Yeah. I've heard about Kelvin. He's a nice guy, Kelvin. I like Kelvin.
Oh,
Really nice
really?
guy. Yeah.
Oh,
When it
okay.
comes to mixing sound, terrible. Awful. Yeah. Nice guy, though.
It makes me so happy.
I'm so happy.
We're glad you're back, Kelvin. So, Wayne is the senior pastor at Riverton Baptist Church, which is the place we are currently recording this in.
That's right. Yep.
So, welcome to Riverton.
Yeah.
And also is the church that Connor and Joel and Ruben
Yep.
and other people who have been on the channel, I'm assuming,
That's right. A couple
is
people.
in.
Yeah. So, we've all been going to Riverton for a pretty long time. It's been really good. Wayne's a great pastor, and we're stoked to have him onto the podcast today. So, thanks for coming on.
Connor.
Yeah.
No worries. My pleasure.
So,
Thanks,
Wayne,
guys.
tell us a bit about yourself. Tell us how long you've been at Riverton and how long you've been in ministry as well. And
Yeah, sure. Okay, so I'm married to Jodie. We've got 3 girls, and I've been at Riverton for about 3 years, and been in ministry for nearly 30 years.
Wow.
Mostly in pastoral ministry in Baptist churches in WA, but have been in missions as well. Worked for an organisation called Operation Mobilisation for about 5 years. That was immediately prior to being here at Rivo, and worked in their international team, training new missionaries as they head out into the mission field, and career missionaries too as they do their work in various countries and on board OM's ship as well. Yeah,
Cool.
Yeah, that's what I've been doing.
Okay, so walk me through from when you kind of became a Christian and kind of felt the call into pastoral ministry and what that was like and kind of your path from there.
Sure. So I came from a Christian home, I guess you could say. My mother was a Christian and made sure myself and my brothers were always at church on Sundays and brigades and youth group and all those sorts of things. My father became a Christian when I was 13, and when I saw my dad become a Christian, I thought, oh, you actually become a Christian, because I always thought I was. I always believed in Jesus, and so I thought I was a Christian. Then at 15, a youth group leader said to me, oh, you believe in Jesus? And I said, yeah, I believe in Jesus. He said, you know, even the devil believes in Jesus, and he doesn't have a very bright future.
That's full on. That's full on thing.
That's confronting.
And so I thought, wow, I'm actually no different to the devil. What have I missed? And so I had some questions about that, and my youth group leader helped me understand the difference between believing in Jesus and being a believer and having faith and being filled with the Holy Spirit, and actually not just believing in Jesus, but being totally devoted to him and surrendering your life to him, which I did at 15. I was baptised that year, and around the same time I believe I've received a call into ministry. I had no idea what that looked like, but it revolved around the Great Commission for me, and the Great Commission for me was what I had to do with my life. That's all I knew at 15. And, you know, over the next 8 or so years, the Lord brought that into focus for me, and I went off to Bible college, and I didn't know that I was going to be a pastor. I actually thought I'd go into high school chaplaincy, and did Bible college, and then became clear that I'd move into pastoral ministry. Yeah.
Okay, so the evangelistic aspect of it was quite appealing as well. Talk to me about what it was about that was so, like, it really took hold of you, because it's not for everyone. Evangelism, you know, is for everyone, but isn't the first thing some people think of. Yeah. So what is it about that really struck a chord with you?
You know, I guess for me is just seeing people even from a young age at school, just seeing my friends struggle through life and actually be, washed around by life and just go with this trend or go with that trend and not actually live their life with purpose. And I really found in Jesus a purpose for life. But before becoming a Christian, I really had no idea why I was here.
Yeah.
And but as soon as I came to Christ, I thought, I actually know exactly why I'm here.
Yeah.
And just seeing the pain that it caused my friends as they pursued that avenue or that avenue, I thought, and even their parents, as marriages broke down and that sort of stuff, and their families were hurt. I thought, man, there's there is a better way than this. And I just had a passion to, and a compassion to help my friends see, that Jesus can give them a purpose for living and beyond just being washed around by whatever might be going on at the time.
Yeah, cool. So talk to me about some of the difficulties and some of the great things about being a pastor. What are some of the hardest parts of it? What are some of the best parts of being a pastor?
Yeah. I think for me, one of the hardest part of being a pastor is living with the tension of, knowing that you're a sinner and that you still do sin, but also wanting to live as an example to other believers, and just having to hold that tension and be real about that, with yourself, and forgive yourself as well as endeavour to be authentic and real with other people. That tension is I find that quite a burden to carry, that's the hardest part for me. Also, just seeing people not want to pursue God's calling on their life and just totally reject that. That's difficult as a pastor. Especially the closer those people are to your life, the harder that is.
For sure.
That's hard. What I love about being a pastor is helping people discover why they're on earth and what their purpose and calling is in life, and then trying to find opportunities for them to actually engage in that, and just to jump in to that and express their faith in finding their purpose and calling. And
that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I always found the hardest thing being in pastoral ministry for me was the burden side of you're being authentic and not being someone that people just want to look up to, and you become something you're not, which is apparently not sinful when you definitely are a sinful human being like everybody else. That's always hard. The other thing I found really hard, and I don't know whether you would say the same or not, but I found the people that walked away, that was difficult. The people I found the hardest to continue to walk with were the people that were happy to just say they were a Christian and rock up and not, that was it.
Sure.
And just kind of
sort of like a faith without actions sort of a thing.
There's just no joy in it. It
sure.
was just the repetition more than anything. That was always the thing I found the saddest, I think. Personally, I don't know how you feel about that, but that for me struck me really hard as well.
People who've just sort of settled for the status quo and said, I remember one time I was chatting to a lady. She would have been maybe 70, late 60s, 70. And I said, have you ever asked God why you're here? And she said, you know what? I've never actually thought about that. I thought, wow, how did you make it to nearly 70 as a Christian?
That's right. And
you've
never
never
really
asked the Lord,
yourself.
why did you create me? And what do you want me to do while I'm here? And I just found that very tragic, actually. And the other thing that is difficult is, consumer-centered Christianity. Where people say, church is all about me and my needs weren't met today, and rather than actually, we're actually all here together to reach the community out there. I find that difficult. I want to stay there.
I think I had a very similar experience where I said to someone, "Have you ever thought about why God loves you?"
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And they went, "No." And I found that really sad. It's so much of your identity is supposed to be wrapped up in who God is and who He sees you as, and to not have thought of that, it can be Yeah, I don't know. It's quite sad. It's one of the more heartbreaking parts of being a pastor is when you see that sort of stuff. I think.
Yeah. But the joy, of course, is taking a journey with those people.
Yes.
Yeah.
And seeing the lights come on, and going through Scripture with them and saying, this is what the Lord says about you,
Yes.
and about His church, and who we are to be as His people.
And seeing
people
that
discovering
revelation is just incredible.
Yeah, it
It's
is.
like the
and
flip side of
and
things.
like you said in like setting people on and almost on their. Sometimes just asking someone a small question can really lead them on, even if it's not like specifically like so much as like why did God put you on this earth? Do you ever ask that? But like I remember I was on a camp once. I think it was called Immerse Camp, and the speaker, I think he was the speaker. We were sort of sitting there having a devotion. And he said, "Don't you ever ask those like questions? Like, for example, what did Jesus say?" To the guy who helped him pick up the cross again, like because they exchanged words, but you don't know what those words are. I was like, imagine what that was, that to me that was like that set my brain to be a bit more biblically curious, and it sort of challenged me to look into stuff a little bit deeper.
Yeah.
So even though he wasn't specifically challenging me to do that, that's what it ended up. That was the result of it. So
yeah. Curiosity is an important word. Sorry to jump in there.
No,
but, as a pastor, it's important to be curious about what is God doing and how can I lead this church to cooperate with Him in that. So what is God doing in the world right now? But also to be curious about people's lives. So what's going on for you?
Yeah.
And not being nosy, but being curious in order to get to the bottom of who someone is and what the Lord is doing in their life. In a respectful way and a gentle way and in a loving way to help them align their lives with the Lord.
Can I just say, Wayne's been excellent because Wayne's so down to earth and genuine. When he comes and talks to you, he's totally genuine. He's not the figurehead of the church. He is a fellow Christian who joined with you in fellowship at church, and it's just for me it's such a rare thing to do. We've had a couple of pastors where we haven't had that. They've been ingenuine. They've sort of put themselves as a figurehead in the church, and that's what it's felt like at least.
Sure. Thanks, Connor.
Where I couldn't talk to him, but every time I see you, I'm like I'm going to talk to the pastor and just hang out with him. I always like it might be a little bit childish thinking, but even the idea of just hanging out with Jesus sounds like a cool thing to me, and just being able to not to put him on this. He is God, but not to put him on this crazy pedestal where we can't talk to him and we can't actually relate to him because he's just above us. And I feel like he doesn't want that. He wants that personal relationship. And I think that's a good example of being Christ-like within a church if you can do that with everyone at your church as well.
Yeah, good man, good. Good.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned curiosity as well, because I often find curiosity is the biggest thing in creating something as well, whether it's songs or messages or whatever. A lot of the time it's being curious about what's going on. Yeah. So, jogged in me that. Speaking as someone who has only been in ministry for a short amount of time, to someone who has been in ministry for 30 years, which is a short amount of time. It
is. In the scheme of things, it is. Yes.
No, you've obviously seen a lot. I'm interested as someone who's sat in Bible college and especially pastoral ministry subjects, where they have said over and over again, you have to be really careful because it's like 50 or 60% of pastors don't retire as pastors, and like 40% of that is burnout. I'm interested as someone who has lasted so long in ministry, because that's 30 years. That's a long time to be in ministry, comparatively, statistically.
Sure.
What are the things that have set you up so that you've been able to do it for so long?
Yeah.
Because it's an accomplishment in and of itself sometimes to go that long.
Well, it's a team effort.
It's a team effort.
It's a team effort.
Yeah.
So, I think for me, I had some really great ministry training at Bible college. Yeah. Not just theology, which was great, but the actual ministry, preparing for ministry. When I was at college, it was 2 years supervised field education. So, basically pastoring with the trainer wheels on.
Which doesn't happen anymore.
I'm not sure. But certainly that journey, along with a mentor pastor, senior pastor, I had a great mentor pastor in my 20s who helped me understand not just how to preach or be a pastor, but how to do life personally as a pastor.
Yeah, okay.
I've had mentors on and off through that period of time for different things. So I'd go to them for, to improve my preaching or to improve my pastoral care skills or just to reflect on who you are as a person and as pastor. But also I have a group of guys who I've been meeting with. We met at Bible College 30 years ago, and we've been meeting now probably every couple of months we meet, and we have a very open and honest relationship with each other. We've given each other permission to speak into each other's lives, and so they tell me when I'm being great, and they tell me when I'm being an idiot. And I would say that I would not make a major life decision without consulting these guys.
Yeah, I think So
awesome.
last month on the podcast we had some guys, and we talked about accountability.
Yeah,
and we found that just chatting to someone and talking amongst like a small group of people can really change your life and really improve your life.
Absolutely.
Just being able to have someone there being like, no, don't be an idiot. That's almost more important than telling them when you're doing the right thing, because you need to know when you've gone the wrong direction or you strayed the path, and then you're back on it. So
yeah. So I was chatting to an older guy he's retired from Pastoral Ministry now. A couple of years ago I was talking to him, and he just, as an offhanded comment, he said, "Oh yeah, when I was talking to a mentor," and I said, "Wait, stop." I said, "You've got a mentor?" He was nearly 70 years old, he'd been pastoral ministry for years. And he said, "Yeah, I've got a mentor." I said, "Who is it?" And he told me about that, and I thought, wow, that's something else, to submit yourself to that kind of relationship at that age. I thought that was a great example.
It's so true that you always need it. It doesn't matter how far along the way you are.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
So.
I'm interested to hear about. I think people in church will often think of a pastor as the person that does the preaching or like is at the front, and that's tends to be a small part of what we actually do a lot of the time.
Sure.
And so for me, I found that a lot of it is more the relational side of things than it is that upfront stuff, which is what I thought it was when I was coming in. So what do you see as like the number one things that you as a pastor does that is the more beneficial things that people don't really think about too often?
Okay. Yep. So I don't know about order of priority here, but here's a few ideas, right?
Sure.
Yep. So preaching is
it's important.
It is
don't
important,
get me wrong.
right? Yeah, sure. But in the scheme of things, it's 25 minutes of your week.
Yes.
Or 30 minutes at max of your week on a Sunday morning. Now, of course, there's several hours of preparation that go into that.
Oh, yeah.
But it is only one cog in the wheel. It's a very public cog. So when people are assessing a pastor, they'll say, "Oh, he's a good preacher, he's not a good preacher," and they make their assessment on 25 or 30-minute message. But it is only one cog in the wheel.
Yes.
So as a lead pastor of a church, I lead a team of people, a team of pastors and ministry staff. So I spend a fair bit of time with them and helping them to lead their teams and training new leaders is part of what I do. I think a key part of what I do is helping to lead the church to fulfill its calling. And that's easy to say. It's quite complex to do.
Yeah, that's right. I imagine there would be
easy.
lots of things that would go into that.
Sure. Yeah. So you've got in a church the size of River, you've got how I describe it as multiple niche communities, and they all have their own passions, their own interests. You've got people who are passionately evangelistic. You've got people who are passionate about worship. You've got people who are passionate about social issues, social justice issues. And, you've got to try and coordinate all those people who think their issue is the most important issue. But they all have a place. But it's gathering those people around a common vision and leading them on to fulfill that God-given calling.
It's like the metaphor in 1 Corinthians 12 with the body. There's all the different parts of the body, and Christ is the head. But they've all got to work together.
Absolutely.
They're all as important. They all mean something to the body.
That's precisely what Paul's talking about.
Yes,
absolutely.
Yeah. So, no, it definitely reminds me of that. So, nice. Can you tell me about if there's some sort of point in your ministry that you can point to and was like, that was awesome. For me, it was, the first time I baptized someone, I always remember that. pushing them very forcefully under the water because Phil told me that I had to push them really hard, otherwise they float, and pushing them looking like I was drowning them.
That's right.
Great stuff. Little things that I just didn't know. That's hilarious. That's great.
Yeah, stuff like that. So is there points in your pastoral ministry where you go?
Well, probably one of the most embarrassing parts, talking about baptism, is I whacked a guy's head on the side of the baptismal one time when I pushed him down. But
that's what Phil told me.
Just mind the edge of the bath there. So that was a bit embarrassing. But anyway. So most fulfilling, I think I've found over the years, and this has not been intentional on my part, but I've just found myself a part of ministries at, where I'm leading change. So the churches I've led, it's been about leading a church to a new phase of growth or changing culture in the church, bringing the church to a place where it's actually reaching the real community that is around it. Churches tend to be very insular, and so it's a constant battle for a pastor to be turning people's eyes outwards away from themselves and onto those people who are basically going to hell. And a Christless eternity, and to constantly be turning people's eyes in that direction. I found that quite challenging, but also rewarding. And even my ministry with OM was a ministry of leading change. The fact that they were delivering a lot of their training face to face when I arrived there, and I helped them move a lot of their training online, and that saved that organisation tens of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, wow!
And which was a great thing for them. They could be applied to different areas.
To the people that really need it. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So
to finish off, tell me about where you feel closest to God.
I think for me, family's important in that. Marriage and raising kids. Seeing your kids born and raising them, it's just an amazing miracle. And even marriage for me is it's wonderful. But just that the relationship, the closest of relationship in marriage, is sort of reflects the closeness of relationship with the Lord. That's really important. But beyond that, I'm a nature guy. So I love hiking. I love getting out in the bush. I've walked most of the Bibbulmun track, not all of it. And I just love the smell of the bush. I love being around wildlife and seeing wildlife and just seeing God's creative hand in all of that.
Yeah.
Seeing the valleys and the hills and climbing those hills and just seeing nature in its natural environment, God's creation.
That's right. Yeah, there's something about hiking. You get to see a lot more, but camping, you can actually it's just you're away from everything, and you don't feel if I was to stay in a hotel or whatever, I don't feel that same relaxedness as I do going out camping in the bush with nothing, which is weird because I have less amenities and all sorts of stuff like that. So
so a few years ago, a friend of mine and myself were traveling through the US, and we went through Yosemite National Park, and it was just wonderful to see the God's creation there. And then a couple of days later, we were in Las Vegas, and it was just the stark difference. And he said to me then, he said, "Isn't it interesting to see what man has created for our enjoyment? So gambling and clubs and stuff in Las Vegas, and compare that to what God's created for our enjoyment."
And it's just, that's right.
Just
Absolutely.
Difference, a stark difference. So
Yeah, awesome. I mean, I also did a similar thing when we went to America, where it was we stopped in Las Vegas, then drove to the Grand Canyon, and then drove back to Vegas, and it was like Grand Canyon was awesome. Vegas, man, but it was the same sort of revelation of wow, this is oh, cool. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to finish up there for today. So thank you so much for being on.
Pleasure.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, Wayne. It's been awesome.
And guys, thanks for the invitation.
Yeah, and we really appreciate all you have done in helping us as well, because that means a lot as well. So thank you.
Yeah,
we're very appreciative of that. So you can actually see Riverton services and Wayne's preaching. They do live streams of their services and put stuff up on their YouTube channel as well. So just look up Riverton Baptist Church and you'll find that. So you can see Wayne preach if you want.
We'll put the links in the description.
Yep, we'll do that. You can find us on Facebook at Made Creative. You can find us on Instagram at Made Creative Worship. And you can find us here on this YouTube channel. Make sure you like and subscribe. But my name's Sam.
I'm Connor.
And I'm Wayne.
I'm Joel.
And there's Joel in the background still.
Joel's there, I
here.
guess. And have a great week, guys.
Yeah, see you later.
Bye.
Hey, thanks for watching.
Click here to subscribe, click here for a different video, and check out the description below for our social media links.